All right, that cabinet meeting at the White House we showed you Kristi Noem speaking about earlier, it's still happening at this moment, but just moments ago, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent had this to say about the tariff deadline. Take a listen.
We will have taken in about $100 billion in tariff income thus far this year, and that's with the tariffs, the major tariffs not having started till the second quarter. So we could expect that could be well over $300 billion by the end of the year. We don't agree with CBO scoring, but for those who do, the CBO scored tariff income over the next 10 years at $2.8 trillion, which we think is probably low. And sir, under your leadership, we're witnessing.
And they gave us no credit during this last little, the great, big, beautiful bill. I always use the word great. I add that to it because it really is what it is. It's never been anything like it, actually. And I want to thank all the Republicans that voted for it. And I want to, scold the Democrats because they're voting for tax cuts. They're voting for no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security.
Now let's bring in CBS News MoneyWatch correspondent Kelly O'Grady. She is live at the New York Stock Exchange for us. Kelly, thank you so much for joining us. I know you do have a busy day today, but what are you seeing so far from the global markets? How are they reacting to this tariff threat from the president?
Not a ton of reaction, Mugo. I mean, right now I'm looking over here. I can see the Dow is down about 0.3%, so not certainly not what we saw yesterday, but even yesterday wasn't the markets falling off a cliff if you compare back to early April when we saw some of the worst days with all of that tariff uncertainty. You sort of zoom out to the global picture, the Japanese Nikkei and the South Korean Kospi, those are sort of their major indexes over in Southeast Asia, actually were positive. And that surprised me because, of course, Japan and South Korea received those tariff letters yesterday saying, hey, your tariff tax is going to be 25%. You would have expected investors to react negatively to that. But I highlight that kind of same as what we're hearing from investors here in the States. The fact that this deadline has been pushed out from July 9th to August 1st in terms of implementation, investors are really taking that as a, hey, we've got some time, a few weeks, there could be more trade deals, more negotiation to come. The one thing that I'm really zeroing in on, and I have talked to a few investors today that have agreed with this, Taiwan. I'm very curious if we are going to see a letter go out to Taiwan or if that is a country that there is going to be some kind of trade deal. And I highlight Taiwan because most of the world's semiconductor chips that power artificial intelligence development are made in Taiwan. So if you were to see a high import tax, that would really impact NVIDIA and a lot of these other tech companies, which of course are really buoying the market right now.
So how is this back and forth on tariffs? How is it affecting American businesses and even the factory sector?
It's tough because while investors like the fact that this deadline has been pushed out, gives them a little bit more time, hopefully, for these trade deals to happen, a business is planning right now for months in advance and has been for the past few months with all of this uncertainty. Specifically, we got some new data on the Small Business Optimism Index. It takes the temperature of how small businesses are feeling. And two things stuck out to me. One, there's a concern that their inventory level is elevated. You think about what happened before those tariff deadlines going into effect. You saw businesses front load goods, get them in before having to pay that import tax. Now they're seeing the consumers and other businesses that they might be selling to are not buying at the rate that they would have originally expected. Also in that same report, it showed that businesses were more cautious to what we call a capital outlay. That's just a business speak of investing. That makes sense, right? If there's so much uncertainty, you sort of pause and say, well, maybe I'm not going to invest in that project or hire those folks. So it really puts businesses in between a rock and a hard place, Muga.
Yeah, and Kelly, apparently some countries, they're pushing back. They're asking the U.S. for concessions. And I know you can't read the mind of the president, but do you think that will actually happen?
Well, it's a negotiation, right? I think the question is, are they willing to lower their tariffs against the U.S. or non-tariff trade barriers that the president has identified? Japan is a big one. You know, they've got a big auto industry. And remember, in addition to these country-level tariffs, there's also a tariff of 25% on all imported foreign or automobiles. And so Japan's really looking for that one to come down. India's looking for taxes on fabrics and textiles, the EU on pharmaceuticals. Every country has their particular thing that they're looking for. whether there's a concession, I guess it's going to depend on what they're willing to give up.
That's a very good point right there. Kelly O'Grady at the New York Stock Exchange for us today. Thank you so much for your time.